Good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome back to Faith Family Focus. I am Faith Suggs, one of your co-hosts, former Duke women's basketball graduate and current marketing manager for SIG Sports, as well as founder and CEO of Brand by Faith, a social media branding company dedicated to telling the stories of our clients. And this wonderful man next to me is my father, Shaver Suggs, former NFL player with the New York Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals, and has also served as VP and on the executive board for the RPFPC, also known as the NFLPA Chicago chapter. Good morning, Dad. How are you?
Good morning, Faith. Welcome back after a couple weeks.
It's been 2 weeks, I believe.
Yeah, I know.
Lovely stuff has happened since we last spoke.
And we haven't had a show since the Super Bowl, and we haven't had a show. I mean, my NBA stuff is happening. WNBA stuff is happening. The All-Star game was happening. The tournaments are coming up. Surprise in the women's basketball, Big Ten, Iowa winning the Big Ten. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Was that a surprise?
News. Excuse me?
Was that a surprise?
IU got beat by Ohio State, which was a surprise.
Ohio State is really good.
Yeah, I see
really
that.
Good freshman.
Yeah, I see that now. Yes.
Yeah, poor IU. Mm-hmm. But IU does on the men's side. I love that well, he's like a post forward they have. I like his game a lot. I forgot his name, but he's
who's team?
IU men's.
Yeah. Oh, that's Antonio Davis's son. Yeah.
Antonio Davis, as in the one who has other two kids.
He played for the Indianapolis. Not Antonio. I'm sorry. The other. No, it's the other player that played for the Pacers. I'm sorry, the other post player. Okay? Give me the kid's name, and I'll tell you who it was.
Yeah, see, that's all you really needed to do.
Right. I'm giving Antonio additional kids.
You took us down a rabbit hole. I don't know if we're ready to get there yet.
Right.
I pulled the roster up, but no, it's been interesting stuff for sure. His name is Trace Jackson Davis.
Yes.
Yeah.
And his dad played for the Bulls and also played for the Pacers.
Yeah, they don't have any. Yeah, Dale Davis.
Yeah.
So, well, now that we got that out the way, we know that Trace Jackson Davis
right?
is my favorite.
Yeah, he's good.
He's very good. He's good. He's very good. We haven't seen a 4-year player like him in a while. He's what, 3 or 4 year? Let me see. Yeah, he's a junior. So we don't know anymore because of COVID. But he could be a senior. Could not be. But no, wonderful stuff since we last spoke. So let's cover. Dad, what did you think of the Super Bowl? Let's just go down the line.
I thought it was one of the. Yeah, so I thought it was one of the best Super Bowls played ever. Right. I was very happy that it was also monumental that you had 2 African American quarterbacks starting. It went down to the wire. A lot of people did not like the way it ended on that call.
I didn't either.
But I would say, just like most coaches say, one play doesn't decide the outcome of the game. There's a lot of things that happened prior to that could have turned. But I thought it was a really good game. I think it was probably the best quarterback play collectively by 2 quarterbacks in a Super Bowl game ever.
Well, I mean,
ever. I think both.
You know what I'll say? I'll say this. Jalen Hurts' game gets better every single time he plays.
Yes.
Every time. Like, it's so fun to watch. Like, he may make a mistake 2 weeks ago. That mistake won't happen again. And I think that's what you're talking about, especially on quarterback play, because we know Patrick Mahomes. We know the talent that comes from him. But I think that a lot of the questions were, which is Jalen Hurts capable of going up against a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, right? Mm-hmm. Is someone, a talent that comes once every 5-10 years. And I think it was an amazing Super Bowl to watch. I agree. And it really did showcase the quarterbacks well, and the offensive coordinators for sure, on some of the decision-making towards the end.
Right. So yeah, I thought it was a great game. Really, really great game, and was happy. Interesting. So as we get into the out of the Super Bowl and talk a little bit about before we go into, I know we're going to talk about WNBA, NBA, and also the men's tournament, but a little bit about what's happening with Aaron Rodgers and Carr and New York Jets. Everybody's asking me about what your opinion is on whether or not the Jets need Aaron Rodgers. Well, the Jets do need a quarterback, really bad. I think between Carr and Rodgers, it's going to be an upgrade. Hopefully, they don't wait for Rodgers and lose Carr. But it's going to be interesting to see how that unfold over the next 30 days.
Yeah.
So let's keep our fingers crossed because.
Well, did you see how where Aaron Rodgers is and where he went?
Well, he went. He did it. But he came out of this private darkness, whatever he was in.
He went in basically a bunker,
right,
where they took away all sight.
Right.
Now I don't know how long he was down there. I don't know, but if that's gonna correct him, then let's go ahead and sign him up because I think that Hollywood got to our guy.
Yeah.
Which he may be in a good place. I think that one thing that Aaron Rodgers, if he does go to New York, he needs to bring some grit to New York.
Yeah, well, he Brett Favre went to New York, and then interesting enough, Joe Namath has willingly gave allowed his number to come unretired to let Aaron Rodgers wear his number.
Why would he do that?
He's already committed to doing that.
So. Why didn't he just say make a new start and get a new number?
Hey, that would be I would do, but
I would get that, right? Maybe it's a fresh start in New York. He hasn't been anywhere else.
Right. So
you never know. I think they need to go ahead and zip that back up and put it back.
Well, so let's move on from that. That's interesting. But I see you wanted to talk about the NBA. I think it's coming off the All-Star game. I'll let you go ahead and segue into that.
Okay, so there's a few things I want to talk about. We want to cover all updates with NBA as well as March Madness and kind of get our predictions on who we think, even off just watching some basketball, who our favorites are on the women's and men's sides, as well as what our opinion is. I have a few questions for you in total of what the actual skill level of the NBA is right now. And then there's an overall underlying question I have for you to close us all out. So first, the All-Star game, which kicks off my whole idea that I'm leaning into today. It was terrible. Everyone knows it was bad. This is probably the third or fourth or fifth year we've done the fourth quarter at the 24 round for Kobe Bryant, and then you have whoever gets to it wins. I love that style. I think that's a really fun way to play, and it brings competitiveness back into the All-Star game, which originally wasn't as competitive prior to his passing and in the changing of the rules. I think they play a light 3 quarters. We see a couple dunks, a couple behind the back passes, and then that fourth quarter, it's like, okay, game time, let's have some fun, because they're doing it for charity. This was the worst lopsided, just lack of competitiveness All-Star game I've seen in a very long time. And I think that has everything to do with how they let them pick their own teams. Even though I thought that would be a fun idea, you know what I mean? I thought that would be a fun thing to bring in. It just, in some sort of way, I could definitely see how, one, that messes with some of the guys' mental. I can also see how that affects how it took 25 minutes for them to do that whole production of picking teams. They had to re-warm up after that.
I don't understand why they did that.
I thought it was a fun idea, but you know what I mean? That takes you back to the playground, but it lacks. It just sometimes the thought is there. Maybe they could have did it the night before. You know what I mean? And then you already knew the teams going into the game. So there wasn't this 25-minute lagging period going into the game that just overall just made it last 3 hours long. So yeah, I think that was it. I think that obviously some of the guys were annoyed that they didn't get picked first. I think Jokic said it the best. He said, "This isn't a game I'm supposed to play in." I think he was spot on with that. While I think Jokic is one of we're going to talk about Jokic being one of the top post players in the league 20 years from now, 30 years from now, because of what he brings as versatility and skill and talent and personality. But he's not going into the All-Star game doing anything fancy dancy. So I think that he also says something where it's like, why am I going to try? Because what am I going to do? I'm not going to.
His game is not of that style.
Transcend, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
I just so the viewers know that you were actually at the game.
Yeah, I was at the game. So that's why I could say it was terrible. Overall, it was very one-sided. Everyone knows how I feel about the fact that Jason Tatum played 36 minutes in an All-Star game and got MVP and scored and made the scoring record. And everyone's like, oh my God, how'd he do it? Well, he played the whole game. So that's my second opinion. No, seriously. You know what I mean? Like, there's one thing. It was just kind of like they were kind of just like, go shoot the ball, shoot the ball, shoot the ball. And it was like, this is not what we're used to in terms of the last 4 years. We've been spoiled with like the last 5 minutes of the game where they're trying to get that score.
It was more focused on him getting MVP than the game becoming exciting at the end. I think Donovan Mitchell scored 40 points and didn't win. How do you score 40 points in an All-Star game and don't get it?
Well, Jason Tatum scored 40 something.
That's my point, right?
But he also played 10 more minutes.
Right.
And also played for his coach. You don't want to I can go down that rabbit hole. It was very weird to me. I was like, this is gross. Like, this is like USA team level politics that are very cringe, and this is supposed to be for charity. Right. So it was interesting in that way. But overall, I hope that they decide, all right, let's go ahead and take the picking our old teams out. I think that really affected a lot of it.
Right.
It's just a lot of lag time, a lot of personalities that maybe struggled with that. I thought Giannis was hilarious. He was, I think he could be at the face of a league one day because he's just so great at personality wise. But I think overall it was nice. LeBron got hurt. So that was no longer, at first I thought LeBron was going to go for it. And then he hurt his finger. And so it was kind of like, what's the point? So yeah, it just lacked competitiveness. And that's what we have been spoiled with for the last 4 years.
I think that the NBA, and I think the NFL did a really good job this year with the Pro Bowl. They completely changed the profile of what the Pro Bowl should be. It was more entertaining. So them playing, putting on their uniforms and playing football with their helmets, they played flag football. Mm-hmm. It was a flag football game. It was packed. So they were able to see the guys without their helmets. The guys were able to still show off their skills. They were a lot more present. They were a lot more engaging. The players were able to compete in different events and levels, whether it was a 40-yard dash, skills contest. It was just up and personal. Do you think the NBA, I know they do that before the game, but do you see the NBA changing to something like that?
No. Okay. And I say that, and here's gonna this is the question that's going to bring you back to the rest of us. Why did the Pro Bowl get ended? Why did the game stop?
Because they stopped hitting. They stopped. It wasn't the guys didn't want to get hurt, right?
Well, because you're more likely. There's an average of 5 injuries a game in the NFL.
Right. See, back when I played, Faith, with getting that extra $10,000 or $15,000 to be in the Pro Bowl was huge. Now there's no significance other than the actual honor of becoming a Pro Bowler, right? But the actual playing the game and sending your family to Hawaii was huge back in those days.
Right. And this year was in Vegas, which is still a great market, as we're seeing. A lot of people are leaning into Vegas. But no, yeah, that's the reason why that'll never happen in the NBA side. And the reason why is because NBA in total is more exciting to watch in an all-star setting than NFL is. That's just the truth of the situation. You're more likely to get like high flashing dunks and all of that stuff because that's just there's more possessions in basketball. Mm-hmm. Or with football, you get, they get fun with it, but it can't be what the NBA can be because of the lack of numbers and possessions and overall
I understand.
You want to be safe at the Pro Bowl. That's not like that's literally
We're
the
playing football.
NBA. The biggest issue with the NBA right now is load management. There's no the issue. So
Well, how do you feel about that, Faith?
Well, that's part of my conversation. So let's All-Star was terrible because of a lack of competition. Let's make sure we lock that. Lack of competition for NBA All-Star. Boom, check. LeBron's scoring record. He passed Kareem. Congratulations, LeBron James. He is officially the all-time leading scorer in the history of the National Basketball Association. That is a huge, 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 huge accomplishment. I'm very happy because I think that LeBron is a perfect example for who we want to be the leader in this league. And at the end of the day, there was a time period where we thought LeBron James was a superhero. Now he's old, right? He's older, but he's still playing at 36 plus, 37 plus years old. What did you think about him making the scoring record? What were your initial thoughts? Go ahead. Did you hear me?
Yes, I'm listening. For some reason, congratulations to LeBron coming to the scoring record. He is definitely deserving of it. He played enough games to get it. I don't want to. I do. How he ranks among some of the top players in the NBA that ever played. I think with that accomplishment, he's definitely up there. I think his longevity got him there. But what a milestone. I'm a big Kareem Abdul-Jabbar fan.
Right.
Who was able to accomplish that record in less games.
Wow.
Was it less games? Less years, less games.
They actually did a side-by-side.
And back in the time when there's no 3-point shots, Kareem's shots were 3-pointers.
Kareem is unbelievable. Like the history, Kareem in general is someone who can achieve that is unbelievable.
Yeah,
I think everyone can know that.
Well, so let me say that. So the significance of LeBron getting is great, but people, and you just alluded to that, for Kareem to be able to do that and for it to stand that many years,
exactly,
is to me a bigger accomplishment overall, because of the dynamics of how many points he scored. There was no 3-point shots.
Right. I wonder if with Kareem's time period, they counted playoffs because this is all regular season playoff. Whatever you score in the playoffs don't count.
Okay.
At least for LeBron's. Now, I don't know if they do that with Kareem.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
They shouldn't, right? Because they should be equal in some sort of way how you measure. But no, it's unbelievable. I do want to read off this, though. And I think that this is something that we've been really spoiled with extremely talented people in the NBA. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar being one of them. He's not the GOAT because of many variety of reasons, but he is the most efficient, in my opinion, of people that have come into the league. And natural offensive impact, like every single night on the court. Let me read off these accomplishments to give this man his flowers, though, for LeBron James. He's a 4-time NBA champion. He's a 4-time NBA MVP. He's a 4-time NBA Finals MVP. He's a 19-time All-Star, 3-time All-Star Game MVP, an 18-time All-NBA selection, 6-time NBA All-Defensive selection. He was NBA Rookie of the Year, NBA All-Rookie First Team, NBA Scoring Leader, NBA Assist Leader, 3-time NBA Minutes Leader, and he's the Kennedy Citizenships Award. He's got 3 gold medals. He's a FIBA World Cup medalist and also America Cup medalist. He's a national basketball champion, 3-time state champion, 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year, 2-time Mr. Basketball, 3-time Ohio Mr. Basketball, 3-time USA Today All-USA Team. So all I'm going to say is this. When LeBron James decides to finally retire after his son comes to the NBA and they can play with each other for 1 season, we better give that man his flowers the same way we give Kareem his flowers, the same way we gave Kobe his flowers, the same way. And I say this because LeBron James isn't built like what we considered the most skillful player, right? But the power and pure efficiency of that man and his ability at one time, and I'm talking about his Miami years, to be able to take over a game and just there's no stopping him was something to see. And the fact that he's still doing it at the age he is awesome. And it's legendary. But he's not top 5.
Yeah. All right.
But he scored more than Kobe Bryant. He scored more than Kareem. At the end of the day, he had to do these things, right? And you got to remember, when he first got in the league, he took the Cleveland Cavaliers to the finals with nobody on that team. So that's all I want to say is yes, it shows so much about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's impact. And I think it was good for people to see, like, holy cow, he did that during a time period when that was, how the heck did he do that? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also for people to see the most amazing pieces of LeBron James' career coming to the perfect moment for him as well. In Los Angeles, struggling to make the playoffs, but amazing. And people, and I realized, I was like, I think there's just a level of hate about LeBron for some reason. I don't know what it is that people don't like. I really don't. And I told you, maybe it's just he's not like the super between the legs crossover person. He's not doing crazy finishes like Kyrie. He's not shooting like Steph, but he's efficient. And I think that's what Kareem is as well, efficient. And I think that that's what we should reward at the end of the day, because that's what wins championships. That's what wins accolades. That's what puts you in the record books is, yeah, you can do all that, but are you putting the ball in the hole? And I think that's something that LeBron James, that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, that Kobe Bryant, that's what separates them from everybody else,
right,
historically. And so when I saw the hate, even the people were like, why'd they stop the game? And I was like, they stopped the game for Kareem too. Right? But it's this thing. People, I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't think LeBron did anything to people. I think he's done an amazing job as someone off the court as well. Family man, stands up for rights, does an amazing job with community, started his own school, has a scholarship fund, all these amazing things, right? But there's just something, I think maybe we're just in the time period of hate, Dad. Maybe we are, right? But I think
there's a whole bunch of things that play into to realize he's one of the greatest players ever played. You can't take away from him. And right. I think, him moving teams, him not. I think as a basketball player, he's probably one of the most talented players. I think his toughness,
mentally,
I don't know if he is at that level of Michael and Kobe. And that's what separates. And I think that's what people are separating is he was never asked to take over. He never ever asked to take over a game.
And his competitiveness is nowhere. It can never
nowhere near it. And I think that's what people from old school, people like myself, see in him, that know the difference in my generation, from seeing Michael play, from seeing Kobe play, and then seeing LeBron. There's a big, huge difference in their want to and their ability to will a game.
Well, he did that in Miami. Like, at the end of the day, there was a decade of we've seen LeBron James in the finals every single year, right? That's not him waking up and deciding, oh, I guess no, at the end of the day, he had to, right? I think that what people don't like is that he doesn't have I'll break my finger, and tear my Achilles, and I'm gonna still go out there, right? That's what made Kobe and Michael Jordan sociopaths, extremely talented, some of the greatest players of all time, because they would literally not let anything stand in their way from winning the game, right? There was a pure difference between the two. But I will say this, and this is something that I say to you often. No one's asking us to compare and contrast the two style of players between Michael Jordan and LeBron James, right? But we can go ahead and be like, yeah, well, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have that. But at the end of the day, the man's achieved the same accolades, the same numbers, more numbers. So we can't let our comparisons and our contrasting take away from what he's done. And I think that that's something that we sometimes forget, especially older generations as well, because we want to make sure there's always
a very good point.
But no one's Michael, right? He'll never beat Michael because of the sheer competitiveness that he lacks, right? But I think that he has figured out the off the court earlier than Michael has. I think he has figured out the family piece that Michael has not, right?
No, he's phenomenal.
Right, he's a perfect role model. It's exactly what we need, especially in the league when we're dealing with Ja Morant. This is an amazing person that we should put at the front of magazines, right? So don't even get me started on that. So that's all I'm going to say is we're allowed to compare and contrast. We're allowed to say what he lacks, but we have to make sure we're just as loud in what he has done.
Right.
So that we don't make a man feel like, you know what I mean? We got to do that. We have to. Right. Okay. So we talked about this before, and this has to do with the NBA, what we think. LeBron James scored and beat Kareem in the scoring record. We have people who were not even drafted the top 10 scoring 40 points a game. We've got people scoring 71 points a game. We've got people dropping 60s, 53s, 55s, okay? Yes, the NBA has gotten softer in terms of defense, and I saw that with the All-Star game. We can all agree on that, right? Where does it go from here? Where does the NBA go from here? Defense is not a priority anymore.
You think that the viewership is dropping?
Well, yes. And the reason why is because of this thing right here that we can go on House of Highlights or ESPN on Instagram and go watch the highlights of every single NBA game last night. I don't have to sit through 2 hours.
I would say that I have not sat down and watched the entire NBA game this year yet.
Well, I have, but then again, you played football.
Other than the games that I went personally and watched.
Yeah, right? I watched there was a really good game last night. I don't know if you caught it. Phoenix and Dallas. Mm-hmm. That was amazing. Okay, that was Kevin Durant's third game back, something like that against Luka. That was a big game. But I will say viewership is down because there's so many more shiny things outside of sitting down on and watching NBA TV. And also the fact that it's just not competitive. It's lacking competition. And now they're talking about, and I want to know your thoughts on this, because this is kind of what I wanted to spend a half hour talking about. March Madness has discussed extending the bracket to 90 teams. The NBA has been talking about extending the NBA 4 teams.
What markets?
Vegas, Seattle, and there's a few other, which great markets, right? Like they'll make a lot of money. No problem, right? We see how great the Aces are and the Raiders are doing out in Vegas. Mm-hmm. But so we got March Madness is trying to add more. NBA is trying to add more. WNBA is always trying to add more, but that's a different story. I want to know your thoughts, Dad. What do you think is pushing this expansion, these thoughts on expansion? And what do you think that's going to do to sports?
Well, it's always money.
Right.
It's all about money and revenue. And if these cities, here's the 10 possible NBA expansion cities. Is their ability to be able to support these teams? And then there's also with enough talent, professional basketball talent to be able to fill those 2 teams. I would say yes.
Yeah. Do you think the NBA is as talented as it's been right now?
So skilled, yes. Talented, no.
Okay. I think that there's a lot of people in the NBA who wouldn't have been in the NBA 10 years ago.
Right.
And I think and we had this conversation with some friends the other day, adding 4 teams will just continue to water it down.
Okay.
So that's why I asked you. Yeah, the money's great. The NBA always going to make money. There's no question, right? Because at the end of the day, people will literally dish out $100 to watch. But what happens when LeBron goes, all right, I'm good? What happens when Steph Curry goes, all right, I'm good here? Kevin Durant, Chris Paul should be gone soon. Bless his heart. You know what I mean? Like that tier of athletes that have led and we've seen and like we have emulated for years. What happens when they're like, all right, we're good. And the NBA is like, all right, add on 4 more teams. What is the future of the National Basketball Association? Should we be worried?
Well, it'll be interesting how they navigate it. I think these questions should be questions that need to be considered. I mean, I think I think we can expand. I mean, I think we can expand it, but will it be sustainable in terms of can these markets, because of the dilution of the talent, are they going to be able to sustain and support these teams? Right? Are the networks are going to? Because I again, you say you've been watching. I watch them. But I don't watch them like, and of course, I think at this particular time in my life, I don't spend a lot of time watching individual sports until the NCAA tournament, until the NBA playoffs, until the NFL playoffs, right? I'm just not there. There are people that will watch the Bulls. They will watch the Cubs. They will watch.
Yeah, people are still putting money on sports.
Right.
There's always people.
Maybe that's another thing, Faith. Maybe it's the sports betting that's driving. It could be driving the expansion.
Throwing games.
No, there's more opportunities to bet. That's all.
There's more opportunities. You can bet on everything. You could bet. Let's talk about the Super Bowl. You could bet on what Rihanna's first song was going to be.
Right.
Betting is the most. Sports betting is so glorified right now in today's society. You see a DraftKings and MGM commercial almost every single time you're watching a sports event, right? Which could be good and bad, right? Because it's some sort of way they're probably trying to get people to watch sports in a time period where they didn't have to push sports on us because COVID, we were glued to the screen for anything, right? But now we're not. And now we have time. Now we have the ability to go out and go to these games. And I'll say every time I have gone to a Bulls game this year, it has been almost completely filled in, right? So I don't know if attendance is the issue because I think people are still going to games. I just think that the quality of like talent across the board has significantly decreased. And I guess my question is where does the NBA go from here once we lose those high-level talented athletes that we have grown to make, the next top of the league? Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Stephen Curry. Like once Stephen Curry leaves, will the Golden State Warriors still retain the level of status they have in that arena? When LeBron decides wherever he's going to go this year, because I don't know if he's going to stay in Los Angeles, will Jeannie Buss be able to keep the Lakers as magical as they have always been? Because she's struggling now. So it's just this, we grew up on these legendary eras of basketball and talent and you would see dynasties, but you would never see them 5 years, 6 years, 7 years in a row. You see dynasties and then you move on to the next and use this talent, right? And it's just constant influx of talent coming into the league. We're not seeing that like we once did. Where does it start? I don't know. Is the talent not the same for the generations below? I watch a lot of college basketball. I'm not impressed. And that's not me saying it as someone who, I'm older and no, that's not the point of view I'm coming from. I'm just more along the line saying like, I don't know if we look like that. You know what I mean? It's like at one point it was like, let's talk about. Now, I will say this. On the women's side, watching South Carolina, she's consistent across the board. Okay, that every team Dawn Staley has had at South Carolina has been exactly the same. Kim Mulkey, even her team, it's just lack thereof of talent, but they work hard. It's just across the board. It's just not, the talent is not where it used to be. Now, the athleticism, the strength, that's there. But the talent in the sport of basketball, and I don't know if it's like this across other sports, and I guess you could think about that for football, it just isn't the same that it has been decades before. And so I do question is like, are we coming to kind of like a flat road for sports, for basketball in particular? And what do they need to do to get the NBA back in the trajectory that it was going in? Because you know what? Maybe we won't see into the NBA playoffs. You know, maybe we won't. Maybe then all of a sudden we'll be like, oh, there's the talent. But
wait, so I was just listening to you. I'm just looking at I'm looking at the Eastern Conference right now, or the Western Conference right now. You have your top 8 teams. You have the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, the Kings, the Suns. Those aren't major markets. You know, you have the Warriors, Mavericks, Clippers.
Well, wait, hold on. Mavericks is Dallas. That's a big.
Is that a major market though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to know why? Because there's no state tax. So that's why they like to go play there.
You got Memphis Grizzlies. Is that a major market?
Memphis is not, but you already know what that is.
Okay.
So think about that. They're kind of a show. They're entertainment. So that's the one outlier I will say. That's not a market, but they are the market. Does that make sense?
The players' market.
Yeah.
How about the Kings?
No.
The Suns, obviously, with the addition of Kevin Durant.
In Phoenix, they just had the Super Bowl there, so.
Right. San Francisco, yes. Minnesota, Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas is a better market than Minnesota, but I think those are off skills. But
those are your top 8 teams.
Yeah. Dallas is Kyrie now. You know that.
Okay.
Phoenix has Kevin Durant now. So now the West got spicy. The West originally, John Morant said, who are you worried about in the West? He said, I'm not worried about anybody in the West. He should be worried about everybody in the West now. Okay. The West has post free agency. The West completely changed how we look at the NBA for the playoffs.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So look at the East. The East, I think it's
Boston.
Well, you got Milwaukee, Celtics, 76ers, the Cavs, the Knicks, the Nets, and the Heat and the Hawks are the top 8.
Yeah, I think the Knicks are on a nine win streak.
Right.
So they just beat the Celtics last night.
Yeah.
So, I don't think, NBA has never been in these glorious markets, right? But
that's true.
The talent always made it work. You know what I mean? The marketing always made it work. The entertainment always made it work, which is what Memphis is basically riding. They were trying to do this bad boys thing that's going left, right? It's going real far left, but people are going to the games for that. So, the overall investment into the NBA, let's revisit it post playoffs, right? And have a conversation, because I wonder what is the NBA going to look like in 5 years, right? Who will the stars of the league be, right? The NBA kind of did that over All-Star with Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, John Morant, and I really think we should put Jaylen Brown in there, but I know. That's who they think is the, leaders of the league in the future. And I say this as nicely as possible, not one of those are LeBron James. Not one.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's when we all of a sudden, that's when we realize who LeBron really is, right? We put him side by side with the next upcoming talent. And you're like, man, I don't know, because LeBron James already went to, at their age, how many finals?
Yeah.
Right? And so how many All-Stars, how many MVPs? Like at that point, right? And he started at 18, 19. So I don't know, Dad. It's just such a, this idea of inclusive, add more, right? More money, more markets, more teams. And it's not just NBA. March Madness is doing the same so that more people have opportunities. It's all more. And it's great. But it's like, what happens when you add more quantity? Right? That's the
quality drop. So you think you think the NCAA tournament going from 68, right? It's 68.
I thought it was 64, but it could be 68.
14 to a play-in, don't they?
Yeah.
So they want to go to 90.
That was what that's what they were thinking. They were like, we're nowhere near 90.
No.
No, you're not. Because here's the thing about March Madness, right? People want to see high level. This is not me trying to sound like, this is not me sounding uppity, bougie, over talented. This is not that, right? It's someone who played the Power 5 level, who understands that even the 6th team in the Big 12 could demolish a MAC team.
Yeah.
Just off pure resources. Now, we know the MAC men's side has a number 1 in Toledo, who's the 2nd leading team in the country for offense behind Gonzaga, right? But how many times do you get that? How many times do we get a Cinderella team every year? What, 2, 3? That one year we had about 4 or 5. But we're not going to see the Sweet 16. That's when it gets back to normal, right? When you get to the Sweet 16, you're like, oh, there it goes. Maybe I didn't have that team, but everything else looks about the same. And I know for sure that's how it is on the women's side. It never, like, you maybe get a Cinderella in conference play this past week. You got a couple upsets, but we rarely ever see a Cinderella on the women's side in the bracket.
No,
because in women, the levels at the end of the day, the levels on the women's side are so much more isolated and different than they are on the men's side. Because on the men's side, you can have a few amazing stars who are 6'8", 220, who just maybe didn't have good grades, or maybe they grew late, so they ended up at a Kent State or a Ball State, or just like mid-major, good level, but never got the opportunity to get to that next level, right? On the women's side, if you're in the Power 5, the standing point guard height is already 5'10", right? It's just a natural, that's the big difference between the two styles of game. Because there's less women playing basketball than there are men, obviously. So there's less for recruiting. But if we expand to 90 teams, Dad, how long is the dang tournament? Can we go for the, do we have to step into February? Do you know what I mean?
I don't think that's going to, I don't think 90 teams will never happen.
Don't say never in today's economy. Do not say never. Because there's somebody out there saying, give us a chance. Give us, and the NEC, instead of just giving us one team out, give us 3. Right? The Big East is the A10 are saying, give us 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? It's those conferences, not exactly the bottom of the barrel. It's the ones that are almost always there. But because of the lack of strength in scheduling and overall league, they don't get 2, 3, they get 1. So I get it. People want an opportunity. If you want the opportunity, unfortunately, you better find your way under one of them big teams. That's just the truth of the situation. That's unfortunately March Madness, right? Because what's the point? Like I said, what is the percentage of Cinderella teams? How many? Is this going to be a Cinderella year? I don't know. We never know. Maybe. Because, Dad, teams are getting into the tournament this year with like a 10 wins in conference. That right there, and this, let me break it down for you on the basketball side. If you only have 10 wins in conference, you might not barely even get to the NIT. That's how it used to be. Now it's 10 wins in conference have an opportunity to do a buy-in, or they're on the bubble. So it's very interesting. But I think they should keep it to what it is.
Right.
Just for, like, because once again, quality over quantity. Like, it's just like, March is supposed to be selective. It's supposed to be the best of the best. No one wants to see blowouts.
Right. So, can we pivot into your predictions?
My predictions are, on the women's side, South Carolina.
Okay.
South Carolina. I don't think Stanford, I don't know.
Well, your number 1 seeds are what? Alabama, Kansas, UCLA,
on the women's side?
and Houston. Huh?
I was doing the women's side.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, that's right. Okay, I look at the wrong one.
You said Alabama. I said, wait a second.
I'm sorry. I looked at the wrong one.
Look, at South Carolina, I don't think UConn. Out of Virginia Tech, just won the
Indiana?
ACC yesterday. The Big Ten,
Indiana?
Iowa, maybe. Iowa. I don't know if Indiana will be able to
Well,
keep up.
Indiana won. They won the league conference. They didn't win the tournament conference, but they have the overall better record, I think.
Yeah, but you know what I think, and I said this to you before about the Big Ten compared to Big 12, ACC, Big East, the faster conferences. I don't think it keeps. They don't do well.
You said that about the men's side. You think the women's side is the same?
I definitely think about the women's side. I definitely do. Men's side, I mean, it's Purdue, wow. Indiana, wow. Northwestern, wow. But on the women's side, I think I have South Carolina winning it all. They're just the most together, in my opinion, for age, experience. But on the men's side, I guess here's a question, Dad. On the men's side, what conference do you think the national champion is going to come from?
On the men's side, Big 12.
Yeah. Big 12.
I think they may have the strongest. I think, who do you have? You have Texas. Who do you have?
Texas, Texas, Kansas. Kansas State's going to be in there. Baylor's going to be in there. I mean, they might let either Iowa State or Oklahoma in. They might let Oklahoma State in. They might take 6 in the Big 12, which is crazy. But they might go deep into the Big 12 because of the strength of scheduling. I think there's like almost 4 or 5 teams in there that are ranked. So yeah, I think it's going to come out of the Big 12 too. I don't know. We might have to go into a March Madness without 3 of our blue bloods. Duke sucks. UNC is terrible. Wait, hold on a second.
They're going to make the tournament, though, aren't they?
They might not make the tournament.
Oh, Duke will.
They're not ranked.
Oh, wow.
Neither Duke or UNC. So I guess here's my final question, because Duke just swept UNC across the year. UNC beat them in the Final Four, Coach K's final game. They then went to play in the national championship. They returned 4 starters for that team, and they might not make the tournament this year. What do you think about that? Let me break it down for you again. UNC played in the national championship game last year. They returned 4 of their starters, including 2 guards, a post player, and their 5th or 6th year senior. They then went into this season ranked top number 1. They might not make the tournament this year. What do you think about that?
We need to look at the coach.
Unfortunately, that's very so bad. It's what, his 3rd year? Second year.
Yeah, you need to be able to be sustainable. You need to be able to be consistent. You need to be able to build off of your already success. You can't. There's no time to revert back. So that's a concern.
Not here. Not at one of those. Because you know what people who don't. I mean, I can see people saying this. They could be like, was he just riding the coattails of Roy's talent, right? And he was able to take one of Roy's team, even though he was assistant coach. He was there for years and years and years. Did he ride Roy's team to the Final Four in the national championship game? And then when it was time for him to finally, was he able to do it? So yeah, it's another thing. We're gonna have to probably have a talk about coaches and where everyone ends up once March is over, because it's gonna start March 13th. We're about to see some stuff happen. And I think, should Heber Davis be fired? I don't think so at year 2. But then again, I don't know how this works anymore. We got NFL coaches out in weeks. We got coaches and people, you know what I mean? You don't know. All I know is going from a national championship game to number 1 ranked to now barely making the tournament. That's a interesting decline that I don't think we're shining enough light on. And that's not my Duke in me saying that. It's more along the lines of like, what's going on in Chapel Hill? Because Duke might make tournament, but they're not ranked there. They haven't been ranked for 2 weeks, probably. Sorry, bud. It's bad. But they're undefeated at home. I'll say that. So I think he had a successful year in what a first year could look like. But yeah, well, wonderful show to talk about everything. We're up to date on NBA. For March Madness, by next Monday, we should be able to have an understanding of who our number 1 seeds are going to be, men's and women's. Well, shoot, we might have our 1 through 3 seeds by next Monday. And then we're all going to sit here and we're going to put our brackets together. We're going to talk about who we think is going to be in the Final Four or the Elite 8 of the 2023 March Madness NCAA Men's and Women's Tournament. And we will see how it goes. I'm very interested to see who's our number 1 at the end of the year, because this is going to be a fun one, as long as you keep it to 68 teams. Okay. But thank you, everyone, for joining us. Welcome back on this Monday. We're happy to see you. Again, this is Faith Family Focus. We use our faith as a vehicle to help heal and sustain others and strengthen their own family core. And of course, our slogan:
let go, let God, let go, let faith, let go, let love.
Have a wonderful week. We'll see you next time.